Hello and welcome to day 5 of our Holy Land trip. We enjoyed some beautiful weather today as our group gathered and got on the bus. The weather was in the 50s and it was beautiful and sunny. We took a loop trip from the Sea of Galilee north and back again. Our first stop was Chorazin, which was a place where there was a population increase after the Second Jewish Rebellion around 185 AD, and they gathered here, and there are many signs of the way that people lived, the dwellings that were unearthed. We also saw some of the synagogues that were put in place here and how they worshiped in the temple. Dr. Luker pointed out some of the ornate fixtures that adorned the top of the synagogues. Among these that we saw here are some beautiful fixtures for the walls. This is called the Moses chair. It's where the person who helped to teach or lead would read from. This was next to the other side of the altar where they would store the scrolls that would be read. We gathered and had some great fellowship and listened to some wonderful stories by Dr. Luker from the Bible. After that, we left and moved on towards Dan, which is about as far up as we were able to go without going across the border. The first thing we did was take a long hike along the River Dan, which is the largest spring in this area, and it feeds into the Jordan River. As we walked into the city of Dan, Dr. Luker pointed out how the walls were formed, and he particularly talked about the gates of Dan and how there were multiple gates that people would walk in, and this would be a way to protect the people within the city. Here the king would stand sometimes and settle disputes that people had in those days, and we saw some biblical references to that. This was a spot where sometimes the soldiers would be stored in case somebody did want to lay siege to the city. They would come out and protect it. The long walkway up would lead us further into the city. And on the back side of the city, we found this temple area that worshiped the god of Baal for because of the weather. This was a cistern where the water was used to sacrifice and purify the animals, and this was an altar area where the sacrifices would be made. On the back side of this area, we could actually see into the mountain range beyond. This was Lebanon and Syria, and beautiful countryside again. This was a fairly new excavation, and this is actually believed to be a site where Abraham and Sarah might have walked up those cobblestone steps and into that door. It was an amazing feel that day. The next place we went to was Caesarea Philippi, and what you see here are the gates of Hades that Jesus talks about in Matthew 16. It's also the place where Peter proclaims that Jesus is the Lord, and Jesus says, "On you, the rock, my church will be built." And then from that place they left and went to Mount Hermon, which is a snow-covered mountain nearby, and that's where we believe to be the transfiguration to take place in Matthew 17. We ended our day coming back home and found this beautiful valley of doves and a sunset, and we are looking forward to the next day. We'll see you then. Get in the valley of doves that you would be walking.